Awesome. Okay, great. So hi, I am Taylor Pence. I am an instructional designer at McIntyre. And today, well, I will let you introduce yourself, Adam.
Yeah, so my name is Adam Koch. I'm an associate professor of commerce at McIntyre. I'm also the accounting area coordinator. So I teach kind of face-to-face in our graduate, undergraduate, and non-degree programs. And I'm also the director of our online business essentials certificate.
So yeah, we're really excited to be here today and talk to you about Gradescope. I'm sure we have varying experiences with Gradescope in the room. So I'm going to start by just giving an overview of the tool so that you have a general high-level understanding of what it is, what it does, how it may benefit you. And then Adam's going to talk to us about how he uses it with his courses and what he likes about it and how it's helped him and his students. So at any point, if you have questions, feel free to interrupt us, let us know, but we'll also save some time for questions at the end. So like I said, this is our agenda for today. I'm going to cover what Gradescope is, who can use it, and what some of the benefits are. And then we're going to learn a little bit about Gradescope in action when Adam speaks with you guys. So what is Gradescope? So it's an online-based grading platform. So if you go to gradescope.com, they've got lots of great resources. You can kind of get an overview of the tool without even having to sign in or log in. So you can go there to get started. And they've got lots of great tutorials, and we'll talk to you more as we go about where you can find help for the tool. But it's a website, so gradescope.com. And how it works is by trying to make your grading process more efficient and streamline it for you to better serve you in your grading and also in your students as you're working to give them back their grades and feedback. So it works by helping you grade submissions that have been uploaded, so electronic submissions. So those can be done by you uploading paper-based submissions. So let's say you have students write an essay in your class and then you scan them into Gradescope. You have them all in one place and then you can quickly grade them. And some of the perks that we'll talk about later on, but one of the big perks of using Gradescope is that you can group similar answers and quickly grade all of them at once. You can also build your rubric as you go. So as you're grading, you could say, all right, I would take a point off for this, and this is the comment I would attach to that point value. And so you can kind of build as you go and apply those rubric items as you go. And the system really allows you to easily, once you've gone through everything, easily post the grades, and that integrates with various LMSs, Canvas, Blackboard, our Canvas, Blackboard, Brightspace, Moodle, and there's one more I can't remember off the top of my head, but it integrates with a lot of the learning management systems. And so if you're using your grade books in there, you can grade on Gradescope, excuse me, grade on Gradescope and send your grades to that grade book. You can also email students to let them know that their grades are available. So if they log into Gradescope, they can see it's there, and they can also see your feedback as you've gone and attached that when you were grading. So that's a high level overview of what it does. So you upload your submissions, or you have students submit them on the platform. You quickly can go in and grade them, and you can grade in a couple different ways, and post your grades and send them off to students for them to review. So why use Gradescope? So the obvious, it helps you to streamline your grading process, make things more efficient, quicken the process, save you time, save students time as they can quickly receive feedback. And this is great, especially if you've got an assignment you might want them to do multiple iterations on. So if you want to give feedback and have them resubmit and you can regrade, this tool works for that as well. But a great thing about Gradescope is it's valuable whether you have a small class of 10 people or you have a large lecture of 400. So, and no matter the that you're teaching, it's helpful and can serve you. So, Gradescope can
either one.
grade, 1 second. Sorry.
Either one.
There we go. Gradescope can help you to grade no matter the topic. So it works for coding assignments, open response, essay style, short answer things that you're attempting to grade, multiple choice. It can work with a variety of assignments. So another great benefit of Gradescope is that once you've graded, you can take a look and break down your assignment analytics. So you can say, all right, how did everyone do across the board on number one? How did everyone do as a class across the whole assignment? So there's a lot of analytics on the analytics dashboard that you can access, you can save so that you can take a look at the end of the semester, how everyone did across all assignments. You can just take a look at one assignment, one question on an assignment. You can look at the stats for just one student. So it quickly offers you up a lot of analytics that you might not have otherwise had access to, or it might have taken you a long time to access. Another perk is that with Gradescope, you can grade in teams. So let's say you have a co-instructor or you have a group of TAs that help you to grade things if you've got a larger class. You can get on there on Gradescope, and as you're grading, you can say, everyone is going to grade, you grade evens, I'll grade odds. Or you can, as you're sifting through submissions and you're grading, you can say, all right, this hasn't been graded yet. Someone hasn't gotten to it yet. I'll go ahead and grade. And another big perk that we'll talk about here is the rubric building. And Adam's going to talk about this as well. But as you go, you can, you'll build what's called your outline for assignment. So let's say here on the left, this is what your assignment looks like. You kind of draw these boxes over the page of your assignment. So let's say you upload a blank copy when you're setting up your assignment. You'll go through and you'll add these boxes. So you'll say, this is where their name will go. This is where, if they're entering a student ID, it'll go. And then you'll draw boxes around where there should be answers, where the student should be inputting answers, and you can assign points. So you can see here, this answer will be worth 3 points. This answer will be worth 3 points. So question one has a total of 6 points, and you can go through, and as you're grading, you can grade all of these at once. So if you've got 100 submissions for 100 students, you can say, all right, I'm going to quickly grade all of number one. So you'll go through 100 submissions for number one, and then you'll go to number two. So you're not shifting through tons of papers like you might be doing if you're doing paper-based grading, and you're kind of more organized this way. So this is a picture of what your outline, which is what it's called, and your rubric will look like as you go. And this is what you'll see as you're grading, and Adam will dive into this a little bit more, but you'll see, so you're grading all of number one here at once. So here's a submission. You can say, all right, I'm going to give them 3 points for that because they got everything correct. You could go here and say, great job, this is exactly right. And another cool feature of Gradescope is that it will save your comments. So let's say you go to the next student and they give the same answer, and you want to say, all right, I want to give them the same comment. You've got a word bank of all of your past comments. So you are saving time by not having to type the same thing over and over. Another great feature is that you're able to grade in groups. So if you've got, for example, a multiple choice question, so answers A, B, C, and D, Gradescope will help you by saying, all right, all of these students graded, or all of these students, I'm sorry, put answer A. So it'll say, is answer A correct? And you can say, yes, it is. So immediately you say, yes, that's correct. Give them full points, and you've graded 50 submissions with a couple clicks. And then you can also go through the rest and say, these are all incorrect. These are the points I want to assign, and these are the comments I want to attach to the points. So you're really able to grade student by student, or you can grade in groups, like I just mentioned, or you can go through all of number one for all of your submissions and say, all right, I've graded all of number one. Now we're going to go to number two. And it saves you a lot of time. You're, like I said, you're not having to flip through papers. You're not having to, record things as you go. The system does it for you. So that's another one of the big perks. I'm going to switch it over to Adam now, and then when we get done, we'll talk about where you can find more resources and more help to learn about Gradescope. One of the best things I think about Gradescope is that their website is incredibly helpful with sharing resources, whether those are just instructions you read or videos on how to do things. The website's really, really helpful and lays a lot of it out for you. So it takes away a lot of the learning curve here. But I'm going to switch over to Adam, and he can talk to you a little bit more and show you what he does. And he's got a little demo assignment to show you, and then we'll do questions and talk about available resources at the end.
Great, thanks so much, Taylor. So my plan, I've kind of loaded up an actual exam that I used from the fall, this is from last fall. And I thought I would just kind of like walk you through the process, just so you can kind of see some of the great features that Taylor was describing. And so I saw Charlotte has a question in the chat too, and I'll make sure that I address that question in just a second. So before I load up my demo, I'll just give you a little bit of context. So I have been using Gradescope for a year. I've been an enthusiastic adopter. I got interested in Gradescope because I was looking for a way to really speed up the process of collecting, handling, grading, and providing feedback on exams. So in the fall, I teach our kind of core financial accounting course in our Masters of Commerce program. These are large sections, so I'll have about 120 to 150 students per semester. The format for my exams are, I usually have a few multiple choice, I have a few short answer, qualitative questions, and then the bulk of my exam are sort of 3 or 4 long computational problems. And so I need to provide detailed feedback for students. And so I was really looking for a way I could give the same style of exam without eating up too much time in terms of grading and returning feedback. And so in the spring of 2020, when the lockdown started, I tried a couple different things. I tried grading paper copies, scanning, and electronically returning feedback. That took me way too long. And so then I tried having students submit electronic copies to me, grading those on my iPad, returning those. That still took way too long. And so was looking for something that could speed up that process. And so it was really 3 dimensions that I loved about Gradescope. One was just the logistics of handling exams were very easy, and it's a web-based grading software, so I'll actually show you what the website looks like in just a second. And in reference to Charlotte's questions, the students will kind of go to that website, they'll set up an account, and they'll upload their exams directly there. So yeah, they kind of had to figure that out the first time, but I gave them very detailed guidance on how to go about uploading that. It was a very easy process. I actually use Blackboard as my LMS, and so I just set up a little button within Blackboard so they could just click on that, and it would kind of take them right to Gradescope. And so the submission process was very easy for the students. They could submit individually, or I've used this for group assignments as well, and so they could very easily kind of associate maybe 5 students with a submission, for example. Alternatively, I could upload things for them. I chose not to do that in most cases. I kind of had the students upload them directly. The one twist is that the file does need to be uploaded as a PDF. And so there's tons of options there. So students could complete the exam in Word, and then they could convert it to a PDF, or they could print out the exam and do it by hand, and then convert it to a PDF with their phone or their iPad. There's tons of free apps to do that, including free one that comes bundled with an iPhone. Or the students could kind of complete a fillable PDF form. I use that sometimes as well. I kind of gave them the exam as a PDF, and they could just edit it. So once it's kind of uploaded, and again, it was very easy, gave students a little bit of guidance. I didn't really get any feedback on any trouble in terms of the uploading. Then let me kind of this would maybe be a great place to kind of start demoing what this looks like on its own. So I'm going to kind of just share my screen here. And this is just, you can kind of see this is gradescope.com. So I have, I've logged in here, and you can kind of see it's listing out all the courses. So as again, as Taylor was alluding to, these are all linked together with whatever LMS I'm using. And it really, I found it to be a very seamless integration. It was very easy to set this up. Taylor had a really great 2-page handout for me on kind of how to set this up the first time. It automatically kind of imported over the rosters for me. And it was really, with literally push of a button, seamless in terms of pushing grades back to the LMS that I was using. So the example that I'm going to show you guys today is something from my fall 2020 class. And I just kind of created a little, this is a real exam, but I kind of anonymized eight real exams and kind of loaded them in just so I could kind of show you guys like what the process might look like. So here you can kind of see like my active assignments. I've got 2 things right now that need to be dealt with. I'm going to go to the sample exam. And you can see I've kind of divided up my exam into, this was a final exam, so it's pretty long. There's some multiple choice, some accounting changes, some accounting equation. The problem that I want to show y'all is this one down here. And the first thing it's going to do is it's just going to kind of show, so I'm telling it I want to start grading that problem. You can see it's just kind of cycling through all the answers that students have submitted here. And you can see that some of these are typed, some of these are handwritten because some students printed out the exam, hand wrote it, scanned it back, and uploaded it. Other students just did it in Word, and other students filled it in as a PDF. I gave them all those options. Now, at this point, it's prompting me to start grouping the exams so that I can just kind of handle big groups together. So let's say I could put like the 50 students who all put $1,000 into one group, and I could put the 20 students who all put $500 into another group, and I could very easily grade all of those exams at the same time, which would really just drastically speeds things up for me. Now, at this point, it has a little bit of AI that it will use to help form those groups for me if I would like it to. What I found is the AI works awesome with sort of categorical answers. So if it's some multiple choice or true false or kind of fill in the bubble, directional answers, the AI was really good. And I would still check the groups that it formed, but it did a nice job. What I found is it's an accounting exam, so I've got a lot of numerical answers. The AI was not as good at numerical answers. So it got confused by answers that did or did not have dollar signs or differences in decimals, or it wasn't great for abbreviations. So I'm gonna just kind of, for this example, I'm just gonna kind of skip the AI forming of groups and show you how I would manually form groups. I'm gonna click on review ungrouped answers. And here you can see it's kind of creating a sheet here that has everybody's answer to these problems. And I had some calculations here, but I'm going to really be grading this green part. And that's something, as Taylor was kind of showing you the outline, I kind of set up, I loaded in a PDF in the exam, and I told Gradescope where the questions were going to be and where I wanted the answers to be as well. So I'm focusing in on the green parts here. And I'm going to just kind of start forming some groups here. So I'm going to create one group that I'm going to call correct. And I'm just going to kind of move every exam that is correct over to there. And I happen to know that this is the correct answer. So if you don't mind hanging out for a second, I'll go ahead and click everybody that I can see has the correct answer here. I've got a paper answer key in front of me. And then once I've highlighted all the exams that are correct, I'm just going to drop them into that group. So I've got half of my exams are going to be in that group. And then I've got a calculation for ending inventory, and I've got a calculation for cost of goods sold. So I'm going to create a new group, and maybe I'll call that incorrect ending inventory, because I can see that some people got one of these right and one of these wrong. So let's see, this one. It looks like maybe nobody got just that one. So maybe I'm not going to need that group. Let me change that one to incorrect cost of goods sold. And I can see this person had ending inventory right, but they didn't have the cost of goods sold right. So I'm going to plop them in there. I can see this person had the ending inventory right, but not the cost of goods sold. I'm going to plop that in there. And then I'm left with 2 people that kind of got everything wrong. So I'm just going to make a little note. And just for the record, they don't see these group titles. Those are just for my own use. So I'm going to just kind of drop those 2 in there. And then I've kind of categorized all of them. And so just remember, normally I'd be doing this with about 150 students. And my experience with a problem like this is that I would probably be able to assign about 85% of those into a couple of big categories. Like most people are kind of making the same mistakes. And then maybe I would have about 15% would have done something kind of weird and idiosyncratic, and I'd have to handle separately. But the objective here is to just assign as much to groups as I can to kind of minimize how much time I have to spend in the grading. And this is something we have at McIntyre. I've got maybe about 5 friends who are using Gradescope as well. And people have said this is like a really good task for a TA, could at least go through and maybe do the first pass, even if you feel like you want to get into the details of the grading on your own. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click grade answer now for these. And you can see I've kind of already kind of populated out the rubric here. But this is something that I kind of created when I went along. So I can actually maybe just delete a bunch of these, just kind of show you how I might do this. So let's say I've got my first group here, and it's telling me this is the group that is correct. And it's got 4 submissions, and I can just kind of quickly double check that answer looks right. And then I'm going to go ahead and click correct. And now this is the rubric that I can adjust or build out or change as I go. Again, I'm going to kind of delete some of these so you can see what it would look like if this was maybe a new exam that I was just starting from scratch. You can set up your rubric to either deduct points for things that are wrong, or you can set it up to add points for things that are right. I personally like to deduct points for things that are wrong, so that's how I'm going to set up my rubric. And so I'm going to say, if you're correct, it's going to be -0. And you see it's clear means I have not applied it. When I click it, it turns it green. I have applied that item. You can see that the grade for those has changed to 8 out of 8, and that's done. And so I'm just going to hit next graded answer, and I just graded 4. Or if this was a real exam with 150 students, I probably would have just graded 50 responses to that problem. Now, this is the group that I can see got the ending inventory correct, but they got the wrong cost of goods sold down here. So I'm going to add a rubric right item, and I'm going to take off 3 points for that. And I'm going to say wrong cost of goods sold. And then I'll just go ahead and click it. And I've gone ahead, I've applied that rubric item to everybody there. And you can see that the score for all of these folks have changed from 8 points in total to just 5. I could go down here, and I could also add some specific comments to this group. Once you've used some comments, you can then easily reapply comments to other groups as well. So I don't have much else to add to this group. That's what they did wrong. And so I'm just going to click. Those are all done. And now I've got to another group. This is a group, remember, that kind of did everything wrong. So I'm going to kind of go ahead. I'm going to click wrong cost of goods sold for that group. But then I'm also going to add like a new rubric item. And I'm going to say like -3, wrong ending inventory. And then I'll go ahead and click that. And now I've applied both rubric items. You can kind of see that's reduced their score down to 2 out of 8. And so I would kind of keep going. I only put in like 8 examples here, so you won't get to see a lot of different permutations, but I think you can easily imagine that if I had 150 exams, I might progressively discover more errors. And so as I went through, really, by the time I've gone through a couple groups, grading really just becomes a process of clicking which of these rubric items I would like to apply. There's a couple other things that I could do here. I can kind of add I can highlight something if I wanted to. So, or I could draw a little bit. This would be, I could add a comment here, like started with the wrong number, or whatever I wanted to do. And so when students access their answers, they'll see what rubric items were applied, they'll see their score for each individual question, and they'll see any individual comments that I added to their exam. When I get, honestly, if I'm grading 150 exams, I'm probably not adding much in the way of individual comments, but I'll maybe talk in a second about how I use this for some cases and some more qualitative assignments as well. Now, the thing that I'll also kind of point out that I feel was, for me, life-changing is when I change my mind about rubric items, I can just go ahead and, after the fact, change numbers. So if I go ahead and I change that to, that just automatically went through and redid every exam and rechanged everybody who had that rubric item applied would be changed from -3 to -2. So I can fuss with that as much as I'd like. I can change the numbers as much as I would like, change the comments. I might decide after the fact, you know what, like I took off points for something that seems too picky. I could reduce that, or I could just remove that item altogether. There's also options in here if I wanted to see like anybody who made a particular mistake. I could go through and I could go in and look at their exams. You can see here I've got options for all pages. So if I want to kind of see the whole exam and see everything that folks did, I could go back and I could do that as well. I can use the keys to kind of zoom in and out. And overall, I would say that there's tons of hotkeys in here. So kind of the more you use this, the faster it can end up going for you. Click next ungraded, and then it kind of shows me that it's done. And so you can kind of see here, this particular exam, I divided up into all of these little pieces. And then it kind of keeps track of who did the grouping and who did the grading. And so that's just really great. If I've got a team of TAs that are working on this, I can go back and I can change what anybody did as well. So if I didn't like the way somebody set up a group, or if I thought somebody took off too many points for something, I can just kind of easily go in and change it as well. At the end, you can kind of review grades and you can see descriptive statistics and so on. All right, so I'm going to kind of go ahead and stop the sharing, and I'll maybe just kind of give you a couple big picture takeaways, and then I'll be super happy to answer any questions that you guys had on this and the process. One is I'll just mention, I've used this, I like this so much that I used it for all of my classes, big and small, and I've used it for all assignments, big, small, quantitative, and qualitative. So I really got interested in this because I wanted to grade these big multi-part problems, but I also found it amazing for grading cases or essays, because what I would find is that as I'm grading these case write-ups, very qualitative, there's probably like a set of 12 things, and everybody's case write-up is some permutation of those 12 comments. In fact, usually what I do is I would have a Word file where I'm kind of writing a memo to the students, and I've got another Word file where I've got all the possible comments. And I give them, I kind of cut and paste. The rubric just makes this all automatic. I can just kind of build it out, and I can just choose for any case write-up what comments I would like to apply. So I found it great for other assignments. I found it great for me personally because I just found that I could grade much, much faster using this than the pen and paper marking up that I have been using for decades. Faster grading for me means going to be faster feedback for them. Also, the thing that I found amazing, and this came up in several conversations with colleagues here at McIntyre as well, is I feel like my grading is much more consistent. So I feel usually at the end of a grading session, I would honestly spend a couple hours going through all the exams again, just kind of making sure I treated everybody's situations the same, was consistent how many points I took off, and this just kind of automates this process. I know everybody who had the wrong ending inventory lost 2 points for that. So I found it much more consistent. Also, the fact that I can grade as a group and the fact that I can reuse comments honestly made me much more willing to give pretty detailed feedback. And so I was, maybe when it made sense, kind of type out a couple sentences as to what seemed to be wrong, because I knew, okay, 50 people are going to get that comment. It's worth investing in a little bit more. Taylor mentioned that Gradescope has a regrade request option, which first I'll say is actually quite nice. The student can kind of point out exactly which element they think was graded incorrectly, and they have to give you a little description as to what they think was wrong there. So I can go in and I can go exactly to the part that they're talking about, and I can see exactly what they're saying about that. But I'll also say that that wasn't used very often, and I think that that's a comment on the increase in consistency that I experienced with Gradescope. I will always give students the opportunity to submit a regrade request. I found that I had way fewer when I was using Gradescope because it was much more transparent to the students exactly why they lost points, and I know that it was consistent. So if they compared why they lost points to someone else, I felt sure it was going to be the same amount of points that were deducted. So let me see if there's anything else I want to kind of add about the consistency element. Just that they'll actually go into Gradescope to look at the feedback. They'll be able to go through, they'll see how I marked it up. They'll see exactly where they lost points and why. There's an option where I can only show them the rubric items that applied to them, or I can show them every possible rubric item that could be applied. For me, I only showed them what applied to them, so they could only see where they lost points. But I had some colleagues teaching some other large classes that actually just released all that information to students, so they could see, like, here's the range of everything you could have done wrong and what you would have lost for that. All right, so I guess I'll stop for now and kind of give folks a chance to ask any questions. Be happy to talk about my experience or kind of what I found helpful in the process. So I see a question like, how does Gradescope work for longer essay exams? So I mean, I think it's a multi-part answer. I mean, I think you're kind of looking at a PDF, and so there's not going to be any kind of limit on what they're submitting. They're submitting a PDF document, and you then are dividing up the PDF document into what you would like to consider at one time. So when kind of Taylor showed you that outline of the problems, that's something the instructor decided, like, this is what I consider the problems to be, and this is what I want to see at once. And if you kind of saw, like, even for mine, the little example I showed you had 2 grading elements. That's because those are 2 I want to see together, because if you made a mistake on one, there's a good chance you made a mistake on the other. And my exams have a lot of things like that. So there'd be a lot of places where, okay, there's a couple grading elements I'm looking at, and I want to look at them all at the same time. So I went through the PDF and electronically marked up what I consider problem to be, and what I want to view and grade at the same time. And that was a super easy process. It would just take me probably literally 2 minutes to go through the PDF and mark it up. So when you've got like a longer essay exam, you could just say, like, this is all just one grading element. I just want to see all of this at the same time. And so you would just go ahead and you just highlight the whole thing and say, that I want to read all of that at the same time. So I certainly did that for some of my cases where it was, what you're, like kind of like a longer essay exam, and I just want to grade the whole thing. And then I'm just kind of applying the rubric elements to the whole thing. And since I can mark it up, I can mark up as I go, so that if I want to add a comment in one particular spot, so the students could see exactly what I was talking about, like, that's where it would show up. Or some of my longer essay exams were really like 2 big long essays together in the exam. So I would just kind of mark the first big long one as one big group I want to grade together, and then I would do the next big long one as one group I wanted to grade together. So it really worked well for those purposes. I used it for those purposes, and I have a buddy who used it for exactly that as well. He was super happy with that.
Yeah, I think that one of the big perks of using Gradescope for an open-ended, longer response, longer essay type option would just be that you'll have built that rubric and that word bank of comments, so that you're able to, if you're finding yourself applying a lot of the same comments, you're able to quickly pick from those and apply them, as well as the points, and that the grading is already kind of stored in the system for you, and you're able to send that back to students. So while you're still having to read, and maybe depending on the extent of the feedback you're giving, a lot of this, the system's still automating a lot of the process for you and shaving seconds off time that you would normally be spending, you know, flipping through papers, writing things down by hand. So I think that's one of the perks of doing a longer response. So with Gradescope.
Yeah, and so to Rip's other question here, so let me know if this is kind of again addressing what you're getting at. What I showed you, my exam there, that was sort of a fixed format that I didn't want the students to mess with. And so I created answer boxes there where you kind of saw that they put the answers in those boxes so that they wouldn't mess around with the page breaks and things like that. So what you're describing, Rip, I think what you would do is I had the option where I am going to assign where all the answers are. You can also just have the students assign where all the answers are. And so the students, when they upload their exam, again, that's a very easy process. They just click upload, they click the file they want to upload, and then they'll get a preview of what they're uploading. At that point, if I've selected it so that the students themselves decide where the answers are, then they'll go through and they'll do that highlighting. Like, okay, I'm going to highlight, here's my answer 1, here's my answer 2, here's my answer 3. And I mean, that works great as well. You have to do that if the answers are all kind of different size and different lengths. And so the friend that I described who uses it exactly for that, that's exactly what he did. And I did that for one of my assignments as well. So that works very, very nicely. So kind of depending on the way you want to do it, because of my quantitative exam, I wanted an exact format that I didn't want them to mess with, but it's also very amicable to this sort of a free form, students themselves go ahead and pick where their answers are. And even like we use this in our intermediate accounting class, which has like 270 people. The professors there, they don't have that fixed format that like I had. They just let students put their answers wherever they want, and then they just have the students kind of mark where their answers are going to be.
Yeah, and Adam mentioned one of the great things about being able to draw those boxes on top of your assignment is that kind of tells Gradescope where to look. So let's say if you've got 3 exam style questions, if you want to grade all of number 1 at once, you draw a box around where you think they should have put their answer, whether you told them put it here or you're just kind of giving them free range to write where they want. You draw that box so that when you click through and you're grading all of the number 1 responses at once, they're all in one place. So you're not having to scroll through the page. You're able to just see it all at first glance, go to the next one, see it all. So I think there's a big benefit in kind of giving them more structure, whether you're drawing a box on a Word assignment, you know, on Word, you draw a box and say, put your answer, it has to all fit in this box. Or you're saying, you know, your answer has to be contained on page 1. Make sure you don't go past page 1 or page 1 and 2. I think it helps to give them some structure because that makes it easier for you to find things when you're grading. So I think a big thing I would recommend is testing it out before you go into actually grade. So when you set your assignment up, upload the paper that students will actually be writing on and draw your boxes on it and say, okay, this is what I'll see when I'm grading. So I should write these directions out to students, or I should make sure when I'm drawing my outline to grade, I'm marking it a certain way so that just so it's easy for you to see what you're doing when you grade, because that's how it makes it quicker for you. So yeah, like Adam said, there's lots of different ways to do it. You just have to find what works best for you, and because it's all about making this process easier for you. So students can write anywhere. You want to make it efficient for yourself when you're grading.
Yeah, and I'll kind of echo Taylor's comment. Like, I think having some low stakes trial for this is something that I did and I would definitely recommend to anyone. So kind of a couple weeks before this was going to be used for an exam, I had this as just a little quiz. And so this kind of gets to kind of Charlotte's first question too, like, students are a little bit anxious about using a new system. And so like, we'll have like a real low stakes quiz and give you a chance to try out how it's going to work, give them a chance to see how it's going to submit, and then give me a chance to see how I like grading on it, and if there's anything that I'd like to kind of tweak or make it more freeform or make it more structured or anything like that. So to kind of go to Charlotte's question here on how do you insert individualized comments on only one person's exam? So I was kind of showing you how you can kind of do things as a group and assign comments to the group as a whole. It's also very easy to go into any one individual exam and kind of mark it up. So that could be a couple of things. One is, as I kind of described, what I found is like probably about 85% of these are all easily categorized and all should get the same basic comment. Or then there's about 15% of these that are very idiosyncratic. Then those are the ones I'm kind of going by one. And for me, those are the ones kind of more likely to kind of go in and add an individual comment. Also, I mean, I will say there's a couple times where I saw somebody whose answer could be grouped with other people, but I also clearly saw there's something I wanted to say here to make people aware of another problem. So I just didn't include that one in the group. I just kind of hit that one later on. So I just kind of, through the process, just kind of identified like, okay, like what sets of answers am I comfortable just kind of grouping together, giving everybody the same feedback? What sets of answers do I think have something specific that I want to say? It's also super easy to go back and just later on revisit any individual exam or mark up any individual exam as well. You can kind of dig back into things as much as you'd like. And so easy to individualize comments, but also easy to reuse individualized comments. So if I marked up somebody's comment and I see, oh, I got to mark up somebody else with the same thing, it kind of gives me a drop-down menu. Would you like to reuse any of these comments, or would you like to use something different? And it also just kind of go back to the idea of these essays that you're could be a variable length. You could have the student themselves marking up how long it is or where they put their answers. Those obviously, when it gets into essays, you're really not, I wasn't grouping at all. Those are all things I'm going to grade individually. I'm going to decide what rubric items to apply and so on. So when you get into grading essays, the grouping isn't going to be a feature, or isn't going to be a useful feature, but I still found it a high value add, even when grading essays, just because I could reuse the same rubric items and be super consistent in terms of how many points I'm taking off. Now, I'm ashamed that I don't know the answer to Rip's question on iPad, because I'm actually a super big fan of iPad and I do almost everything. I actually haven't tried the Gradescope on the iPad itself. That might just be a reaction because that's the way I was doing it before. I was kind of marking things up on my iPad, saving that file, getting that file back to students. So I haven't tried integrating the iPad with Gradescope. I've just been using the computer screen. So I have to, I don't know, I have to kind of maybe check that out, see if I could, if there's something I could do there.
Yeah, and I haven't tried it on the iPad either, but I do know it's compatible because I've read about using the pen, the Apple Pencil, and to write feedback. And students can also use it to write in on their submissions. And I put in the chat an FAQ page from Gradescope's website that talks about a little bit about iPad usage and also just answer some general questions. I think we are about at the end of our time, but I just wanted to remind you guys that gradescope.com is a great place to get started. If you email me, we have developed, like Adam mentioned, a getting started guide. for our faculty at McIntyre that we're happy to share. And also the Learning Tech website has lots of resources as well. So lots of places to find help on grounds or off grounds. I really actually would recommend Gradescope's website for getting help. I wouldn't recommend that for just any vendor, but theirs is great. And lots of helpful videos that walk you through everything step by step. I'm always happy to answer questions. And let us know if we can help you in any way. Adam, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think that's kind of a good summary. I agree. I found the handout that you prepared to be very, very helpful. And I'll admit I pull that out each time I want to kind of resync a course or set up a new assignment at the start of the semester. It just takes me a second to remember what I need to do there. And I found their website and their video tutorials to be really quite helpful. So it's definitely a great resource.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Adam. Thank you all for joining us today. Let us know if you try Gradescope out, how you like it. And like Adam said, doing a low stakes assignment to kind of test it out for the students and for you to have a chance to test it out is a really good idea. Or if you just want to test it out yourself and submit a couple fake submissions on behalf of test accounts, or if you get colleagues to submit things, that's a good way to walk through and play with it, because it's not terribly hard to learn. It's just once you get all the buttons and setups configured how you want them, you'll get the hang of it. So give it a try. It'll make your life easier when you grade.
Yeah, I'll say quickly, I did try that out as well. So since it kind of links up to Blackboard, or whatever LMS you're using, I've added my wife's email address into my Blackboard site so that I could have a student account, student in air quotes, that I could kind of mess around and see what the submission looks like and what kind of feedback looks like and things like that. So I followed that kind of exact advice, like a fake account that I could mess around and kind of see how it works. All right, great. Well, I mean, my suggestion, Taylor, I'd be happy, maybe we can kind of turn off the recording and we'll kind of save that for anybody who wants to view later. I'd be happy to stick around for a little bit if anybody had any other questions that they want me to get at, or any kind of like specific issues you think I could opine based on my experience on. I'd be happy to stick around and do that.